everybody for coming out to the East Longmeadow Public Library tonight on this Tuesday evening. As everybody knows, our theme for the summer is Find Your Voice, so that's what our summer reading program is all about. So what a perfect opportunity to have Chris come back and talk to us about your inner voice. So we're really excited about that. Want to make sure everybody is signed up for our summer reading program because you can earn tickets for attending the programs as well as logging your reading. So if you have any questions about it and want to, we have great prizes for adults as well as children, gift cards and stuff to win. And I want to thank the Friends of the Library for always sponsoring our programs for us. We couldn't do without them. So I'm going to hand it over to Chris.
Awesome.
And take us through it.
What if you present a program? Do you get a ticket for that? I'm gonna go sign up. Okay, well, I got permission. I am really excited to be here with you tonight and talking about finding our voice. This is a topic that I am passionate about, and I'm super excited about this. Before we get started, though, I just want to introduce myself. So my name is Chris Rich, and I live just down the street in Longmeadow. And I am the mom of 3 kids. I've got a son that is going into 8th grade, a son that is going to be a sophomore in college, and a daughter that's going to be a senior in college. So 2 kids in college right now. Wow. And they're both home for the summer, so we're having a good time. And in addition to that, I am a certified life coach. And when I tell people that I'm a life coach, they go, oh, Chris, that's perfect for you. That is the greatest job. And then right after, almost every time, they say, what's a life coach? So there you go. So I want to answer that question really quick, just so you know what a life coach is. So I think of a life coach as like a personal trainer. If we want to work on our bodies, a lot of times we'll go to the gym and work with a personal trainer. And a life coach is someone that can help you it's a personal trainer for your mind and your life. And I work with my clients to help them to create the life that they want. And also I help them understand what is stopping them from creating that life. And so often we think what's stopping us from creating the life we want are the people around us. It's the partner, it's the husband, it's the wife, it's the boss, we like to blame our problems on other people. And so often what we do is we try to change them. We try to change the people outside of us. And it's really hard to change other people. It's hard enough to change yourself. But so as a coach, I help you figure out what is in your control instead of trying to change the things outside of you that you really don't have much control over. Another thing that I do as a coach, we all, as human beings, we all have lots of emotions. We've got emotions where we feel fantastic and happy, and then we've got times where we feel terrible and angry. And so as a coach, I help you learn what to do with your emotions that can help you to still show up as the person you want to be. Sometimes when we're dealing with big emotions, we do things or say things or engage in habits that aren't healthy that have us not showing up as our best selves. So as a coach, I help you to learn how to process those emotions that come up for you as part of the human experience. So that's a big thing that I do with my clients. The next question people usually ask is, so are you a therapist? I'm not a therapist. And so I want to talk about what the difference between therapy and life coaching is for just a second. So let's start with a therapist. So I would call a therapist if I felt like I wasn't functioning at my base level. We all know what is normal for us, and that may look different, but we all kind of know where that ground zero is for us. And so if I felt like I wasn't functioning at that level, then I would call a therapist. And that could be for a lot of different reasons. Perhaps you are experiencing a significant life event, something like a birth, a death, a divorce, a move, a loss of a job, just something, a significant life event that you're struggling with. I would also contact a therapist if I was struggling with mental illness, or perhaps I had experienced some sort of trauma recently in the past. So those would be some of the reasons that I would call a therapist. And therapists are specifically trained to diagnose and to treat mental health disorders, trauma, and crisis. And they go through a lot of training in order to do that, so they can help you with those, to diagnose and to treat those things. And I just want to say, we have this stigma around mental health, and I think it's so fascinating, because if I had a toothache and it was bugging me, I'm not going to wait very long to call the dentist. I'm going to get in there and I'm going to take the first available appointment, because I don't want to deal with that pain. But for some reason with our mental health, we don't do that. We're embarrassed. We don't want to take that, it's like something's wrong with me, I'm lacking. And we have a very different view on that. But I want you to think about that, because
we were just talking about our generation versus the kids. And that's one thing that is not true anymore with the kids. My generation felt that way about, and I work for Aetna Behavioral Health. So, but now the youngsters are like, what? You think it's an embarrassment? Oh my God. And now they have digital therapy and all that.
Yeah.
So, no, but it's going away.
So, and I'm so thankful for that, because it's a big deal. Your mental health is paramount. It's very important that we take care of our mental health. And I just want to say, I am so thankful for my therapist. I love her. She has helped me through some really hard things that I've gone through. And so I just want to offer that if you feel like you're not at your base level, please get the help that you need to reach out to someone if you feel like you're struggling, because we all struggle from time to time, and thank goodness for good therapists. So I just want to throw it out there. So that's what a therapist is. I am not a therapist. I am a life coach.
Sure.
Yeah.
The last sentence you said was a good therapist, and they're not all good. It takes a while for you, maybe a couple of consultations or visits or sessions or whatever, to say, this doesn't feel right. I don't, the vibe I'm getting from him or her, or if he's falling asleep across from you while you're talking. I mean, those are indicators that this is not for you. So I would just encourage people to be focused on what you're looking for and what you're trying to accomplish.
Thank you. I think, and it's important to find someone that's a good fit for you, that you feel comfortable with. So yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah.
So, okay, so a life coach, my clients that I work with, they come to me when they are functioning at their base level. And I do have clients that work with both a therapist and a life coach. And I kind of think of myself as a coach as a great addition to your mental health team. And people would come to a life coach if they are looking to improve a particular aspect of their life. And that could be a lot of different things. Maybe they are wanting to improve a relationship, or maybe they want to work on their self-esteem, or they're trying to lose weight, or they're trying to achieve a goal, or just any area of your life that you're looking to improve. And another thing, maybe I've got clients that they want to be more confident, or they want to create more happiness in their lives. So those are some of the things that I work on with my clients. Also, a therapist will help you work through the past and things that have happened in your past, so you can move forward. And as a coach, what I do, it's more like, okay, that happened in the past. What do you want to do today and moving forward? So that it's kind of a different, and I think a therapist does that as well, but that's more of my focus. As a coach, I do not tell you what you should do or what you should say. I don't know what you should do or say. I believe that you are the expert on you, but as a coach, I think of myself as another set of eyes. And I can help you to see, this is what's going on in your life. Let me show you some different options, some different ways of looking at this, and then you pick what's best for you. So I love that, because you're the expert on you. I just give you some other things to look at and things that you can, that if you choose to work on, that can help. Also, I know a lot of the tools that I use as a coach are similar to the tools that my therapist has given me. You know, she said, hey, you should try this. And I'm like, oh yeah, I use that with my clients. So kind of interesting with that. So any questions on the difference? Yeah.
Is there any, on the left-hand side, of course, we know there's a training, diagnosing mental health disorders, things like that. What prevents anyone from determining, print a business card and say, I'm a life coach?
And there are a lot of people that do that. So the life coach industry is not regulated. So you've got people that are just like, hey, I like to give people advice, or I like to do this. So there are people out there that do that. I received my training at the life coach school. So I am a certified life coach through their program.
Oh, that's good stuff. Yeah.
And so you do want to do your research, just like you want to with a therapist, because there are people that just say, I'd love to tell people what to do. And that it's probably not the person you want to, not the person you want to go through. So, so I'm certified through the life coach school in their tools that they offer. And that's a great question. So you want to do your research and make sure that you find someone that has training, and that's, because you do have some people that just, they'll tell you, you should say this, you should do this. And my philosophy is, like I said, you're the expert on you, and to give you the tools to figure out what you want to do.
If I may, just before you leave that screen, we know that we pay for a therapist, whether it's covered by insurance or out of pocket, therapist, psychiatrist, whatever. I don't need to get into the weeds here, but is there much of a difference, do you think, between a fee for a therapist and a fee for a life coach? Are they close? Or?
Well, one thing, because life coaching is not a regulated industry, insurance companies do not cover it. So that's it.
I can help you there. I have been working for an insurance company. Therapists, their fees you're gonna pay a lot more for the MD psychiatrist than you're gonna pay for the licensed clinical social worker. It'll go down. And the life coach will be less, but some insurance companies are starting to offer their own life coaching programs. They'll partner with somebody.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I hate to tell you that that's selling big. We offer it. Everybody wants to hear the words, but it doesn't seem to be selling big. But that could change.
So, and I think but those are great questions. But at this point, a lot of insurance companies do not cover individual life coaches. But such a great question. So, okay, any other questions before we move on? Okay, well, this is what I'm super excited about. So these are my people. This is an old picture. My little guy right there is now the tallest in the family with size 12 feet. So this was taken several years ago. And I love being a mom. I've really enjoyed being a mom. And there are some things that I feel like were really important to me to teach my kids. I wanted them to be kind and decent humans that were good to other people. And there were a lot of little phrases that I often said to my kids that I've said 10 million times, that they've heard me say them over and over again. And a couple of those, the first one is, be gentle and loving in deed and in thought. These are lyrics from a song that I really like. And that was something that I would say to my kids a lot. If they were arguing with each other, I would, be gentle and loving. And I would remind them of that. And how you treat people and how you think about them. That's something that's really important. So I would say that a lot. In fact, they may put that on my tombstone because I said it so many times. Another thing that I talked about a lot with my kids is I insisted that they gave each other put-ups instead of put-downs. And I would talk about, we are here as a family to build each other up instead of tearing each other down. And it's just, that's something that was really important to me. They didn't always follow these things, but it was important to me that I sure tried to teach them. And then there's another thing that I talked a lot about with them. And it's, you may have heard this before, think before you speak. And it's an acronym. And T stands for, is it true? H, is it helpful? I, is it inspiring? N, is it necessary? And K, is it kind? And so when my kids were saying mean things to each other, because they're humans, they would say things, and I would say, hey, is that true? Is that kind? I wouldn't go through all of them, but I would, mention a couple here, and they're like, no. And I'm like, okay, then let's not say that to someone. So that was something they heard me say a lot. The other thing, there are certain words that they just were not acceptable in my house. I would just, and other, phrases that I would just say, that is not something that is okay in our house. And if you say any of those, I'm going to charge you $1. And they learn pretty quick. Don't say that, at least around mom. And so those are some of the things that I, as a mom, I worked with them on.
Was there a certain age when you would broach that subject?
Which one?
Age of a child, the one just, the screen just before this, with the language, whatever. Because as a former teacher, I heard things being said in the classroom that are acceptable now by other teachers, and it would never be useful or used, I should say, 15 years ago, 20 years ago.
Well, and I think my kids in college, I'm sure they talk differently around their friends than they do around me, but they know that just out of respect, that's just not something.
Yeah.
Don't say it around mom is kind of, so yeah, I think it's kind of just a boundary that I've set in our home, that there's certain things that I just don't want to hear. So, and if I could go back, I would still do those same things because those things are really important to me. And I've got great kids. They're good, kind, decent humans. And I wish that I would have added another component to that. I wish I would have had them apply all of those things to themselves. I really focused on this is how we treat other people, and that is so important. I would still do that, but I wish I would have had them apply those same things to themselves. Be gentle and loving with me. The things I say to myself and the things I think about myself, that's really important. Build myself up instead of tearing myself down. How often, you're at a soccer game and you miss the goal and it's like, oh, I'm so stupid. I'm such an idiot. I missed that. I wish I would have nipped that in the bud and just said, that's not how we talk to ourselves. The other thing is think, use that same acronym, think before I speak to myself. Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? Is it inspiring? And I really wish that I would have taught more of this. And this is something that I am working on with myself, is how I speak to myself. And I want you to think about this, going back to my little swear jar that I was telling you about. If you had a jar and you had to put $1 in every time you said something to yourself that wasn't kind, that wasn't gentle and loving, that wasn't true, I want you to think about how full your jar would be.
What are we talking about for a time frame?
That's a good question. Because some of us, we've talked this way over and over again. I want you to think about that. Would your jar be empty because you're always kind to yourself? Or are you going to have a big fat jar that's just crammed? I was giving the same presentation at a different location, and one of the people said, I could take all of us on a cruise with the money that was in my jar. And I was like, I think we probably all can relate to that. So I want you to think about that. If you had to do this, how much money would be in there? And I even invite you to put a jar on your dresser. And if you want to give me all the money, go for it. I'll take it. But I want you to think. I just want you to pay attention to that. To think about that. That if you had to do that, what would it look like? Because I think that is kind of a sobering thing for all of us. At least it sure was when I was thinking about that for me. And I want you to think about this right here. Of all the people on the planet, you talk to yourself more than anyone else. We are constantly talking to ourselves, whether you're aware of it or not. I think so often we're just so used to it that we don't even recognize that we're talking to ourselves. So, here's the question. I want you to think about this. How do you talk to yourself? And I've got a list of a bunch of things that I've said to myself or I've heard the humans around me say. And I want you to just think about, like, okay, do I say that, or do I say a different flavor of that sentence? So I'm just going to share a bunch with you. Are you ready? I am not good enough, and you can fill in the blank. I am not thin enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not rich enough. Whatever it is, I'm a failure. I'm a horrible mom, or dad, or teacher, or spouse, or whatever it is. It's my fault. I'm not worthy. I'm so stupid. I'm lazy. I will never figure this out. I'm terrible with money, or I'm terrible with fill in the blank. We all have things that we say, stuff like this. I'm not a writer. I'm not a runner. I'm not social. We have all these things that we can fill in the blank with. I'm a bad friend. I always burn dinner. I always leave the clothes in the washing machine for 3 days. We say these little things to ourselves often, and we don't really pay attention. I can't lose weight. I'm so unorganized. I'm an idiot. Can anyone relate with any of these?
Sure.
I totally can. And it might not be these exact examples, but we all do it to some extent. So I want you to just pay attention to that. I want you to start noticing that this is the way I'm talking to myself. And I want to just offer the words that you say, that you think in your brain about yourself, they matter. They matter in everything we do. The way we think about ourselves shows up. How I treat my children, how I interact with my spouse, how I am at work, how I'm walking down the street. Every single aspect of my life is influenced by the way I talk to myself. So I want to be aware of that. And if you want to improve your life in any aspect, pay attention to how you talk to yourself. And this is one of the big things I do with my clients is we look at this. How are you talking to yourself? And what does that create for you? Okay, my husband's a runner. And I had just done the laundry. And he said, has anyone seen my car keys? I wonder if I left them in my little pocket in my shorts. And I went, ooh. And I just had this sinking feeling that I had just washed the key fob.
Oh, yeah.
And those are they're expensive. And so my gut reaction was to say, oh, you're such an idiot, Chris Rich. Why didn't you check the pocket? You always check the pockets, but you didn't on these running shorts. What's interesting, when I'm talking to myself like that, when I'm telling myself I'm an idiot or I'm so stupid or you did it again, what ends up happening is you feel guilty or you feel shame. And then or some sort of emotion that doesn't feel good. And then you take that emotion, and usually if I'm feeling shame or something like that, I go hide. And I usually grab a pint of Ben & Jerry's and my phone, and I go disappear into my room and just ignore my family, and I don't end up showing up as my best self when I'm talking to myself like that. And luckily in this situation, I was able to stop that because I've done stuff like that many times before. And when he said, or Mike, did you just wash my keys? I said, I think I did. And I owned it and I said, yeah, I didn't check that pocket. And I had a very different conversation with myself. And it looked something more like this. It was like, Chris Rich, you are a human. And most of the time you check the pockets, and this time you didn't, and it's okay. And then after I had that conversation in my head with myself, then it was more like, yeah, I was like, I'm so sorry. Yeah, my bad. I washed the keys. And then it was, instead of like hiding in my room, eating all the ice cream, it was like, okay, what can I do to help? Well, it turns out they dried out and the keys were just fine. The car started and it was so refreshing to just love myself. And I didn't need to tell myself I was a horrible, stupid person, because I'm not. I'm a human being that sometimes makes mistakes. And, you know, we were able to kind of laugh about it, and it was just like, I don't have to beat myself up about this. So anytime we think that if we beat ourselves up, that it's going to help us to do better in life, it doesn't. It just makes us feel terrible, and then we don't show up as the people we want to be usually. So I want you to just use love as an option, the way to pay attention to how you're talking to yourself. Okay, here's one of my favorite little pictures. This is my little guy again. And sometimes to help me decide if the way I'm talking to myself is how I want to talk to myself, I put it through the lens of, would I talk to my child the way I'm talking to myself? And there's a lot of times where it's like, there's no way I would say that to a child. And I want to go through some of those things, and I want you to think of it as talking to this cute little boy, if you would say this. You will never figure this out. They're trying to ride a bike for the first time and they keep falling. Can you imagine saying that to a kid? You're never going to figure this out. Or they have a little lemonade stand and you look at them and say, you're terrible with money. They come home with their first little paper that they've written at school. Well, you're a horrible writer. I hope this is kind of making you a little bit sick, that you're thinking, there's no way. I wouldn't talk to my kid like that. You're a failure. You're so stupid. You're so unorganized. It's just not something that you wouldn't say that to a child. At least we sure hope. We don't want to talk to kids like that. So I want you to think about this. If you wouldn't say it to somebody you love, admire, or respect, don't say it to yourself. And I'm going to repeat this because it bears repeating. If you wouldn't say it to somebody you love, admire, or respect, then why in the world is it okay for you to say it to you? And I want you to notice that. And I think a lot of times we're not aware of it. So I want you to just start paying attention. And a lot of times people are like, oh, Chris, I do that. I totally do that. My intention is not for you to go beat yourself up. That's exactly the opposite. I just want you to just start noticing like, oh yeah, that wasn't very kind. I guess I do sometimes say things that aren't very kind. So I don't want you to, this is not ammo to go beat yourself up with. I want you to just recognize like, oh, interesting. Yeah, I do that. Just like the rest of the humans out there, I do it sometimes too. So I want you to just gain a little bit of awareness of how you talk to yourself. And I love this concept. I want you to think about this. Do you have a brain bully? We hear so much about bullying these days in our schools and on social media, and it's concerning how people treat each other. But I want you to think about this. Do you have a bully that lives between your two ears? And sometimes I do. And I'm guessing I'm in good company. I think we all kind of do this at times. I love this quote. When it comes to hating, gossiping, ignoring, ridiculing, holding grudges, or wanting to cause harm, please apply the following. Stop it. And I love this, and this was addressing bullying and the way we treat other people, which is so important. In addition to that, I'm going to read this again, and I want you to think about it in terms of how you treat yourself. When it comes to hating yourself, gossiping about yourself, ignoring yourself, ridiculing yourself, holding grudges against yourself, or wanting to cause self-harm, please apply the following. Stop it. And sometimes I think, wow, yeah, sometimes I won't let I hold grudges against myself, like, oh, you did it again. And like, instead of just forgiving myself and moving on, I do these things to myself. So we just want to pay attention. So you're saying, okay, yep, I do those things. How do I stop? And I want to give you a couple tips that can I want you to just start gaining this awareness and recognizing, yeah, I am talking to myself in this way sometimes. The first one I call a hard pass. So when you notice when it's like, oh, I'm an idiot. I left the bread in the microwave for 10 hours. We say stuff like this to ourselves all the time. Instead of saying, I'm an idiot, I just say, no, I'm not an idiot. And just like draw a line in the sand. I am not going to call myself an idiot anymore. We're done with that. And to tell myself to put my foot down that no, I'm not gonna say stuff like that to myself anymore, and just recognizing that. The other one is I think of it more as, I call it loving engagement. It's more the way that you would talk to a child. Like, I know you've talked to yourself for the past 49 years like this, Chris Rich, but we're not going to do that today. This is not helpful. It's not going to help you to show up as the person you want to be. We're just not. We're all done with that, sweetie. No more. So just to change that dialogue, and first thing is to have the awareness. And then it's a choice how you talk to yourself. And it's a pattern that we've done over and over and over and over again. But it's a pattern that we can look at and change it. And that's a big thing that I do with my clients, is helping them to rewire these patterns, to rewire your brain to start using different patterns when you're talking to yourself and other people. And it's a beautiful thing. It's really a neat thing to watch in myself as I do it, and to see with my clients. I love this picture. This is me when I was probably 3 or 4 years old, with my big scab on my forehead that I'd picked at. And I think of this sweet little girl that this is me. And when I'm beating myself up and saying things that are not kind to me, I like to remember her. And I even recommend putting a picture of yourself as a little kid on your desk or on your phone as a reminder of, I'm talking to her too when I'm talking to myself. Because when you're beating yourself up, you're doing it to that little kid too, because they're a part of you. And I love this concept. Are you guys familiar with the Russian nesting dolls? I think they're so cool. I love these. I like to think of myself as a Matryoshka doll. That this Chris Rich right now is my outer shell of who I am right now. But inside, this, the smaller one, that might have been me a month ago. And the next one down maybe was 5 years ago, and maybe the one on the end was me as a young mother, and just keep it going down and down and down until the little tiny one was me as a baby. And we all have those versions of us in ourselves. And I really don't want to talk to her the way sometimes I talk to this exterior version of myself. And that just, I don't know, it helps me to have compassion for me, and that I want to protect that little girl. And why would I ever say mean things to her? Because she's adorable. Look at her. So I want you to kind of think of that for you. Yeah.
When you had this up a moment ago, I heard a couple of people identify with what they are. I thought I heard that. What are those? I mean, I realize one goes in the other and the other, like that. But what are they?
Just ornamental, that's exactly what they're. They're a traditional, they've been around for a long, long time, and they're Russian usually.
And you can, so the exterior, the biggest one,
The next one goes in, and then the next
snap
one.
it open.
In the end, you got one down.
And so you just keep opening it up and there's another one on the inside.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
super.
Right.
So I think of humans that we're all kind of like this. I've got my, all these other older versions of myself, and I love those older versions of myself. And I want to be kind to them. And I want to be kind to this version of myself. Even on the days that I wash the keys and the other things that I do as a human. This is a picture of my son. He graduated a year ago. And this was such a great day. I was so excited. And as a mom and as a friend and a wife and a neighbor, I'm a really good cheerleader. I'm really good at celebrating other people and just being there to listen to them. And I'm guessing we all do that for the people that we love. And I want you to think about this. You're a great cheerleader for everyone else. And I want you to be your biggest cheerleader. And to think about that. And to focus on, instead of beating ourselves up and being that villain to ourselves, what can we do to be a cheerleader for ourselves? And one thing that I really love to do, and I thought it was so weird when I first started doing it, when I brush my teeth at night or in the morning, I'll stand right in front of the mirror and I'll look right into my own blue eyes and I give myself a little pep talk. And sometimes it's like, Chris Rich, you just did a great job with that client. You really helped them to move forward. Or, Chris, I'm so proud of you. Your kid was just a turkey, and you were still kind to them and loved them, and you held it together. Or, you know what, way to go you. You just did 5 loads of laundry today, and you got them put away. So I am a cheerleader to myself. And I don't know about your families, but my family, they're wonderful. But there are times where they're not sitting there saying, thank you for dinner and doing the laundry, and Mom, that had so much fiber and all the colors of the vegetables. That was just so amazing. My people don't do that. But I can do it to myself. And I can say, nice job making that healthy meal. So I am a cheerleader to me. And sometimes, if something exciting happens, I'll be like, way to go, Chris Rich. I want to be my best cheerleader. And it feels fantastic and then when other people do it too, it's just like a cherry on top because I've got my own back and I'm there for me. People might think I'm kind of weird, and I am, and I'm totally okay with that. But I love that concept, to be your biggest cheerleader. The other thing, another way I like to look at this is a picture of one of my best friends since kindergarten. She lives in Utah, and she came to visit me in Boston, and we had a good time together. And I like to think of it this way too. I'm a really good friend. When my friends are going through something hard, I check in on them, I call them, I listen to them. If they need something, I'll take them a plate of cookies, or I'm a good friend to other people. And I want to do that same thing to me. I want to be my own best friend, where when I'm struggling and going through something hard, it's like, I see you, Chris Rich. I see you're having a hard time. What can I do to support you? And to figure out how I can be a good friend to me in the way that I'm talking to myself and the way that I treat myself. Because it matters. Just like when a good friend shows up and does something very kind for you, you can do that for yourself. And the beautiful thing when you do that for yourself, it helps you to show up for other people. It helps you to go and put more goodness into the world. When we're kind to ourselves and take care of ourselves, then we can do a much better job as a partner, as a mother, daughter, husband, son, whoever we are. It helps us to, when we're good to ourselves, we can go put so much more good into the world. So I want you to think about that. Any questions or any thoughts or?
I have a thought. I looked around, I want to be sure I didn't stop and let anyone speak. A lot of the different ways of thinking of this and perspective and all that sort of thing, I happen to have on my Facebook, and it just keeps coming up and I can't seem to get rid of it, but it's a constant individual speaking in terms of a thought is just a thought. But my point is that they're from the Far East or from India, and these wise men, they happen to be all men, these wise men speak in terms and ways that you're talking about, but just in general for your own well-being, you know. Mm-hmm. It's all like the thought is a thought, you know, and mm-hmm. if you stick with it, it's not going to be good for you. So it's kind of like the mindful thing, mm-hmm. you know, mindfulness and all that. You don't want to stick with one thought. You just let it go and flow. You know?
Well, and I think a lot of times when we notice that we're thinking something or a way that we're talking to ourselves, I like to ask myself the question: does that serve me? Is that helping me? And if it is, then keep thinking it. But if it isn't, then I don't have to keep thinking that. So yeah. And I think it's interesting because our brains, if you think of like early man, this is what we've got, like cavemen. They have some dangerous things in their life. They've got saber-toothed tigers and volcanoes and all sorts of things that, you know, that they're dealing with. And if you think about our brain's job is to keep us safe and to keep us alive. And our lives look different now than they did when we were dealing with saber-toothed tigers and all those things. But our brain is still on the lookout for danger, and it wants to keep us safe and alive. And so our brain focuses on problems. And I think it's interesting because we got someone that sat over there. I think it's interesting. Yes, he may be being chased by a saber-toothed tiger, it sounds like. It's just interesting to know that that's how we're wired. So our brains, by default, are going to look for our shortcomings and our problems. And I'm not saying to ignore those, but just recognize that you can talk to yourself in a loving way and achieve better results than you can if you beat yourself up. And so I have a little assignment for you guys. And I'm not even your teacher, so are you ready for this? I want you, and I'm going to give you 24 hours, because you're going to say, oh, I'm so busy and I just don't have time. But I want you to think about this, if you choose to. You don't have to. I want you to make a list of 25 things that you love about you. And I know some of you are thinking, Chris, I can't do 3. I want you to, and some of you might be thinking, I can totally do that. Wherever you're at, I'm still giving you this assignment. And I want you could get on the notes app on your phone or a grocery list on the back of it or in your journal. I want you to write a list of 25 things that you love about you. And it can be anything. It can be, so I'll give you some of the things that I love about me. And it's interesting because we're like, well, I don't want to be like cocky and I don't want to be prideful. And I want to point out, when we love ourselves, we're not saying, I am amazing, therefore I am better than you. That's not what we're doing. We're saying these are things that I love about me, and that can help me to show up in the world. So I know it can be kind of a weird little thing, like I'm supposed to make a list of why I love myself. And the answer is yes. I want you to do that. Yeah.
That, by really getting yourself to do it, you change a lot. Like, fake it till you make it. If you start doing it, even if it feels weird, you just keep doing it. It's going to change your opinion about yourself or your feelings.
And absolutely. And it's, one of my favorite thoughts that I think about a lot. The eye sees what the brain looks for. So if I'm always telling myself I'm a loser and I'm not good enough and I'm not smart enough or whatever we tell ourselves, our brain, we've just given our brain a job to find all the evidence for why that's true. And we'll find plenty of it. We wash keys in the washing machine, or we burn dinner, or we say things that we wished we hadn't said. We can all find evidence of that. And there's just as much evidence of why we're amazing, wonderful humans. So so with this list of 25 things, I'm going to just give you some ideas. Because some of you might be thinking, oh, are you kidding me? I don't even know where to begin. I love my blue eyes. I make amazing cinnamon rolls. I'm a really good listener. I'm a kind neighbor. I show up when I say I'm going to be there. I give really good hugs. I get the laundry done most of the time. We can put a little twist on it, but I want you to think about what are the things, instead of focusing on our shortcomings, because we all have them. Welcome to the club. We all have them, but what can we look at instead? Yeah.
It's interesting because as you're talking, I'm like, I can think of 25 things that I hate about myself. You know what I mean? That would be easier to do that list in my mind, but it's a good challenge.
And you totally can. If you want to write a list of 25 things you hate about you. But I want you to think about what is the upside to focusing on the things I hate about myself. Because that's what we do. So this is where I want, as a life coach, this is where I want you to make that little shift to, because it is, and I love this, it's easier to find the dirt than the gold. I want you to dig for the gold. If you're out panning for gold, it's going to take some work. I want you to look for the gold in you. And I really want you to try this assignment. You don't have to. I'm not your teacher, and I'm not going to come hunt you down. But I want you to and if you can do more than 25, do it. I made a list of 100 things that I love about myself. And years ago, I couldn't have done that, but I can now. And I am my best cheerleader. I'm my best friend. And those things that I think about how I speak to myself before I say it. And when I notice myself doing something that, like, oh yeah, that wasn't very kind, I don't beat myself up like, oh, you idiot, you just spoke to yourself in a mean way. I don't want to do that. I want to be like, oh yeah, that wasn't very kind, and I want to fix that. I just want you to pay attention to how you speak to yourself, because it affects every aspect of your life. And I want to thank you guys for letting me be here tonight and sharing this stuff with you. And does anyone have any questions or any comments, any aha moments, anything that they're...
Well, yeah. One of the things you said was about the hard stuff. Okay, now that's very hard to do just as an act of will. But I read this thing one where, and I did it. And you put a rubber band around your wrist, and the moment, I don't really talk that badly to myself, but I do. I'm a world champion grudge holder, and my memory is so good that I still cringe over something I did in 7th grade. You know, so when I feel that, I read that if you feel those coming on, boom, you head them off at the pass. And seriously, it has to hurt a little bit. And it does rewire your brain. That band fell off one day after 3 or 4 or 5 months, and I realized I didn't need it anymore. It helps you to rewire. Somebody said the brain starts to take it as a package deal. If this negative thought comes, it's going to hurt, and it works. It's, rather than just saying to yourself, I'm not going to do that anymore. That really works.
Well, I think we have to find, and we still want to do it out of love. We don't want to hurt ourselves.
No, I don't mean it's really bad, but it worked. It worked for me.
Well,
for the most part.
I think it's important to find the ways just to help you to, and I think that's interesting, holding grudges against yourself.
Ugh.
Think of that Matryoshka doll. Do you really want to be mad at that little 7th grade girl?
Yeah, but I'm like, you knew better, 7th grade girl, you know?
She probably didn't. She probably did the best with what she had. Did I see another hand that was?
I wonder why you just didn't blame the husband.
Right, I thought of that too. Where did you check his before you put it in the laundry?
Why do I get in
Yeah.
That's a good point.
I thought the same thing.
You do that.
Feeding your brain is neuroplasticity.
Thank you.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing a summit on that right now.
Yeah.
And I just finished a class today about how your brain changes with every experience. The
Interesting.
neuroplasticity.
And
Like
yeah-
anyone knows to know that, but yeah.
Yeah, we can.
That's a term.
And yeah, we can, so it's a beautiful thing that we can rewire these thought patterns that we've probably all talked to ourselves like this for decades. So we can rewire our brains because of that neuroplasticity, absolutely. Any other questions or aha moments or things that you're like, I can do that, I can?
Well, just a lot of thought, less thought, my comment, I should say. In utero, the fetus, at some point, probably earlier than later even, I don't know, but begins to take on what's going on in its environment. In other words, if there's abuse, or if there's danger, or if there's something like that happening, we don't suddenly get born one day and begin our life, and the brain begins then. You know what I'm saying? It's the kind of thing where, at the earliest of age in utero again, we're already thinking. You know, our brain is developing in there. It's far from totally developed, but it can accommodate a certain amount of information. So.
Yeah. Interesting, yeah. The brain's amazing, and we want to treat our brains with kindness. Okay, any other thoughts, questions?
Did you have a card?
I do, and I was also just going to share, I've got a couple of future speaking events that I'm doing. I'm doing the same presentation tomorrow up in East Hampton and the Longmeadow Library at the end of July. And then I'm doing another one in Chicopee, practical strategies for dealing with anxiety. I think we did that one. Did we do that one here?
No, that was Longmeadow. I was there.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's,
I can't remember the last, we've done a couple.
so those are a couple of events that I've got coming up. Also, if I love doing these, so if your place of employment or your church or your group is looking for a speaker, I love sharing this information with people. And I also have my I've got this on my card too, but this is my contact information. Feel free to take a photo with your phone. I've got a website, chrisrichcoaching.com, and you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, on all the places. And I have a podcast and where I share these tools that I talk about. Some of the clients that I work with are in mixed faith relationships. The tools that I share on the podcast apply to any situation. I just use those examples sometimes. So so you can find me on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And yeah, so feel free to take a picture of that. But I appreciate your time, and I hope that I want you to love yourself and to be kind to yourself, because you're all amazing, wonderful humans. And and if you have any questions for me or are interested in anything that I have to offer, I would love to share that with you. So you guys thank you.
Thank you.